All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
Outside of the snow that we got today, pretty good.
Yeah,
I
wow,
don't
we
know how
got.
much you got, but we got like
Mhm.
7, 8 inches, I feel like.
Damn, no, we didn't get anything. We didn't get.
What?
Yeah, no, we didn't get anything.
Damn.
Um, we got. We actually got we actually had a huge storm that rolled through here Friday night. The
That's what I
Madison
thought we
area.
were going to get.
Yeah, the Madison area didn't get as much, but the Beloit Janesville area they got hit really hard.
I didn't even know it was
And
supposed to snow, and then I'm about to leave for work, and I have 8 inches of snow on my car.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, snow used to be a magical thing when you were a kid, but if you're a person who like us who has to drive through it, you honestly hate snow.
It's an
Um,
inconvenience at this
It
point.
really is. It's such a bitch to drive through. Every place that you want to go to takes significantly longer. And Evan being in the Milwaukee area, I'll tell you right now, I'm assuming those drivers do not give two shits that it's snowing out. They probably
Nope.
drive like it's like that it's
You either
75
drive like
degrees
you're
out.
racing in Daytona, or you drive like you've never driven in snow before.
I know. Now,
No
most of
middle
the people,
ground.
yeah, no, most of the people in the Madison area are good, but the snow in the Milwaukee, that could be a little dicey. So we'll just get right into it. Milwaukee played last week against the Cleveland Cavaliers last Sunday, nationally televised game. They lost, which has kind of been the theme for them this year against the top teams in the East. I believe there is a stat out there that says Milwaukee is now 0-9 against the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I
Mm-hmm.
believe they've dropped every one of those games. So, and look, honestly, it was close through the first couple quarters, but then Cleveland right now as a regular season team is just head and shoulders better than the rest of the league. It's not even it is not even close. This team is a wagon. And what I'm seeing from them this year is they're not relying on Donovan Mitchell as much to jumpstart them, right? Like other guys are stepping up. Mitchell is more his usage rate's down, but he's more efficient. He could be a little bit more of a playmaker. And I think that was the problem that they kept running into is they kept using Donovan Mitchell like he was in Utah. Well, they weren't winning anything when he played like that. So I think they kind of went to a different mode of all right, let's see who else we got. We got Darius Garland, we got Jared Allen, we got Evan Mobley, and we got Merrill and Max Strus. We got shooters around him. So if they can unlock that, then this team could obviously go places, and you've seen that this year. So what did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Cleveland?
It was, again, inadequate because, again, they lost. When it was, again, close for a little bit, and then they just could not keep up, and then there were runs that were given up, and they were trying to fight back too much. The outside of the third or the first quarter, they didn't score above 25 points for the remainder of the game. 20 in the third, or 20 in the second, 25 in the third, 23 in the fourth. So not a lot of scoring at any point in the game outside of the first quarter. A lot of turnovers. I feel like, again, that's been key to these last few games, or not even few, the majority of the season. So again, that doesn't help. And one of my favorite things is Bucks players that they give up on cook us. Sam Miller, 3 3-pointers. I felt like he had. I mean, he only shot 3 of 5, but he's basically what AJ Green is. A guy who's going to get 9 to 12, 15 points a game, out there to shoot threes. And I felt like everyone he hit was at the perfect time of when you didn't want them to hit a three. Not that you ever do, but it was always a killer in whatever run was going, momentum change. Just because no one really of like top tier, like on the calf shot well. 4 of 15 for Mitchell. Darius Garland 4 of 13. They were 1 and 7 and 1 of 8 of 3. Um, Evan Mobley 50%, but not a lot of shots just in general. Jared Allen started out super hot and then just didn't take a shot for the rest of the game. It felt like, but I feel like who really killed them was their role players. Max Strus was hitting 3 after 3. I felt like Sam Merrill, Dean Wade. I just felt like we lost to like their bench, and our bench was not that good either. 5 points from Gary Trent, 2 from AJ. Kevin Porter had 2 points. So I just felt like without our starters, we were cooked, and without their starters, they were cooked. Because I felt like we were the opposite of who was producing the most, and there's just no way of the Bucks ever really coming back, especially being down 19 at 1 point, slowly starting to creep back, but nowhere near of did I ever think when like we're gonna make a comeback, because every time they go on an 8-0 run, they'd give it right back up.
Honestly, this team, like, I keep saying 2015 Hawks. Honestly, the Cleveland could honestly be like the last year's Celtics, right? Like, remember heading into the season, I just kind of said, like, Hauser, like Peyton Pritchard, like, who are some of these guys? And all of a sudden, they're just like, oh, no, these are actually, like, really good, solid, complementary NBA pieces. And I was the one who was wrong. Like I kept saying like 2015 Hawks, but the one thing that's missing is, and the reason why it didn't work out for the Hawks is there's no LeBron. So honestly, the East is wide open. Like, contrary to what some people might think, like, I think the East is wide open. We're not gonna have to deal with Philly this year, so that's
Yeah.
good. Not that I was overly worried about Philly, since they've never made it out of the second round in Joel Embiid's career. But there are other teams to worry about. Like, there are, like, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. You got to worry about the Pacers, okay? As much as I despise them and I hate them with every fiber of my being, they're still a really solid team. You got to worry about the Celtics. Contrary to what some people might think, you got to worry about the Knicks, because that team's the real deal. Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Bridges. Like, that's a solid team. Milwaukee, if Giannis can stay healthy throughout the postseason, because last 2 years he's been, he didn't play last year's postseason, and the year before he, obviously messed up his back. So, and the other thing too is the other team that you're not gonna have to worry about this year. We talked about them in the past, the Heat, because the Heat are looking like they're not gonna be, like, they're already like 8 games under 500, I believe, 8 or 9 games under 500. So, Miami, they're not going to be a threat this year, right? So there's just the East is wide open. Boston's struggling at points this year, but again, it is still the Boston Celtics, and they still very much are a threat in the playoffs. And again, Cleveland, they only have 10 losses, so that team's obviously, like, that team is threatening for sure. But again, there was just some things, going back to the Bucks-Cavs game, there were just some things that happened that you just can't have happen. Like Milwaukee, I think there was one possession they allowed like 3 offensive rebounds in a row. You just can't.
Yep.
Like, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And again, like, would Bobby Portis' presence helped in that? No, not really. That, like, it wouldn't have. And that kind of goes to a matchup thing where once Bobby Portis comes back, like, you stay with Jericho Sims. And honestly, based on the way Jericho Sims has played, I think Jericho Sims is a better matchup in the playoffs more than Bobby Portis, because Bobby Portis, sure, he'll play, he'll have a role, but Bobby Portis might have his minutes limited, because you got to be able to play both sides, especially in the postseason, because trust me, in a 7-game series, teams know where the weak link is, and they will attack it. Like, if you remember 2 years ago when Bucks played Miami in the first round series, Bobby Portis, like, was very much unplayable in those playoffs. Like, he was just a net zero on the defensive end. And that's what you're gonna, and again, that's what's gonna happen in the postseason. Guys who have been playing most of the year, you're gonna, you got to shrink down the rotations a little bit, So whoever the weak link is probably is not going to play as much. Now, admittedly, I think Doc Rivers is kind of doing a little bit of that, where Andre Jackson Jr. is playing a lot less. His minutes have completely taken a nosedive since Kuzma was acquired for. Pat Connaughton really hasn't done anything. He really has not
No.
played a whole lot. Like everybody was high on Ryan Rollins. Well, guess what? Ryan Rollins hasn't really done anything really hasn't played since like January. So it's just like, this is what, guys who might see a little playing time early in the year might get a couple good games. Probably not the long-term solution. Everybody's going to get games here and there, but they're probably not going to be like the rotations right now are probably going to be the rotations in April, but it really remains to be seen on what the Jericho Sims, Bobby Portis is going to be, who's going to see a minutes reduction, because I honestly think Jericho Sims, he could switch, being able to switch all 5 guys is so crucial in the playoffs. So crucial in the playoffs.
And I feel like he's kind of solidified himself more in the lineup. I feel like especially him and Damian Lillard's connection, I feel like has gotten a lot more consistent with some of the lob passes they've had and just some more playmaking. I feel like it's a lot more comfortable out in the court. Just because earlier on when he, was getting couple minutes every game or so, there wasn't anything that really stood out. But I feel like once he started to figure out how to rebound a lot better, and he was dropping in 6 to 8 points a game. So I feel like once he's gotten a lot more comfortable out there, I feel like the better he plays. So every game I feel like he's gotten out there is consistently there's been improvement at each one.
Yeah, and that's the business of the NBA is you have to stay ready, no matter what. Just because Jericho Sims was acquired for, he didn't play a lot when Bobby Portis was in there. Once Bobby Portis left, that opens up those minutes for Jericho Sims to be able to play and be able to thrive. And what you don't realize about Sims is, goddamn, the man's got bounce. Okay, he could jump out of the gym. I swear to you, the other night, when DeAndre Hunter and Jericho Sims were going for a jump ball, I don't even think DeAndre Hunter jumps because his vertical is insane. He could jump out of the gym. And look, he was just looking for. He didn't get the opportunity in New York because most people don't just guys who could just clean up the glass and are just run and dunk type of guys. You know what I mean? Guys who can just.
Karl Anthony Towns, there's not really much need of you.
No, I don't mean like that. I just mean the role, people now prefer bigs who could shoot, right? And that's not who Jericho Sims is. People don't like the DeAndre Jordan types where, hey, you just get most of your points just comes off alley-oops. Where you have no skill in the low post. That's why Rudy Gobert is virtually unplayable every year because you could just take him outside and just be like, all right.
Shoot it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can just take advantage of that. Brook Lopez, same thing. I mean, Lopez inside the paint's really good, but outside the paint, we're, and this actually brings me to my next game. Oh, wait, actually, no, not that. Not that game. That actually brings me to the next game. I was going to bring up the Laker game just for 2 seconds, only because of the fact that move where Luka Doncic, where Brook Lopez, you see that where he was guarding him one-on-one?
Mm-hmm.
The snatch back 3. See, now that's the type of stuff that teams can easily take advantage of when you have a big guard and you're just like, all right, bring it on. That was so mean when he did that. Just Luka Doncic, it was just a snatchback 3, and it was just damn.
And he does it so effortlessly.
Not much you could do. So, moving on to the game against the Pacers on Tuesday. This game really pissed me off.
Yep.
This was a game that Milwaukee had in the bag. They did. But
we just gave up a 4-point play to lose by 1.
Now, I don't want to take – now, look, it was a good game. Okay, do not get me wrong. It was a good game. It was a nice back-and-forth game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Pacers like got out to like a kind of a big fourth quarter lead. Milwaukee was able to claw its way back. They were up. Gary Trent hits a huge three to be like, all right, we're getting somewhere. But then they went to Gary Trent again for a cut shot, and again for Giannis, that was the right play. But at the same token, I'm just like, I don't know if I want Gary Trent Jr. taking cut shots in those situations. He can hit them. I I don't know. I would have forced it to Lillard. I always get nervous when you have a top 3-point shooter like shooting in that situation. It was the right play, but it's one of those things where it's like, damn it, was it is that the play that Milwaukee needed at that moment? Probably was. I don't know. It sucked that it just missed. But again, like I said, Indiana got out to like a big fourth quarter lead. Milwaukee had to come back, and luckily that they missed. Like Pacers missed on the other end, so then Lillard got fouled, hit 2 free throws, and then comes the play in question. Now, I don't want to take too much away from Halliburton because it was a ridiculous ass shot. But if I'm Giannis in that situation, you just cannot foul. Like you can't.
Back off. You're not blocking anything.
Like it was a solid play, and when Giannis did that, it kind of brought some flashbacks back to the 2020 bubble, where I believe Milwaukee had the lead, and he fouled Jimmy Butler at the end, if you remember that.
Yep, right at the baseline. Yep.
Right at the baseline, I believe they had the lead. I wasn't 100% sure with the situation.
I think they were up 1.
I think so too. And Giannis fouled him. It's just like,
with no time remaining. That pissed me off.
Yeah, and again, I understand people. Tyrese Halliburton at this point, like despite being a Wisconsin native, is very much becoming a very hated figure in Wisconsin. He loves the heel role, and the Pacers, the Indiana Pacers, I don't like them because they're just a bunch of front runners. I think that's why a lot of people don't like them. Is I just think they they're akin to the Memphis Grizzlies. I feel like from a couple years ago, where they just talk a whole bunch of shit without really accomplishing anything. To be quite honest with you. I call them second round darlings because, they'll knock off a team like similar to last year. They'll knock off a team in the first round, and then, that now somehow they didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, without really any firepower for the Knicks. But that's really where it ends. I just don't. I don't know. I just think that if everybody's healthy, I just don't know if Indiana is oh my God, we have to worry about the Pacers type of thing. I think they have a well-coached team, but they're also just second-round darlings. And I think for them it'd be lucky if they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals again. But it sucked to lose that game because I thought Milwaukee did everything they could possibly do to win, but unfortunately, just the foul by Giannis. And that's what it was, by the way, because I don't want to hear people be like, well, if they would have done this better. No, they were up 3. They were up 3. The worst case scenario, you go to overtime. You can't allow a 4-point play in that situation. I think Giannis knows that. I think he knows he fucked up. And it was a foul, too, because, say what you will about Scott Foster, but he is regarded as one of the best officials in the league. And it was a foul because he didn't give Halliburton the space to land. Okay? There was a lot of people who were he was out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that turned out to be false. Because I don't think his foot stepped on the end line. So again, it was a ridiculous shot by an all-star player. And if you're Giannis in that situation, you've been in this league long enough to know you cannot commit that foul. So, what did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Indiana?
Again, outside of what you mentioned about being super back and forth with the 22 or 21 lead changes, 22 ties, I just felt like there was outside of the 11-point lead that the Pacers got, there really wasn't any any way that the teams could really make a huge push. It was always 3 points, 4, back to 2. It was trading shots. But I think the biggest killer, obviously, they realistically the Bucks had it, but what really killed them, gave up 31 fast break points, 15 turnovers, 23 points 23 points off of turnovers. That's almost scoring a basket every single time. Obviously, their bench did great, 30 points, but the Pacers bench did even better with 42. It was a good game until like the literal last second, so there really isn't much outside of how killer it was. Obviously, Giannis had a huge game, almost a triple-double, 17 rebounds with 19 points, but nothing really. Torian Prince finally had a decent game, 4 of 8. He kind of was in the end with his free throws, but not his free throws with his threes, but nothing really stood out outside of that. It just sucked how it ended because I've seen it happen before, but never really against the Bucks. But it's hard when you got guys for the Pacers, 25 points, 13, 12, 14, 10, a lot of double-digit guys. Consistent play. Obviously, that's kind of what the Bucks were, 4 guys with higher double digits, but they wanted more, and they got the play that they wanted and the outcome that they needed, but it just sucks. But other guys, chipped in. Jericho Sims had a good game. Torian Prince again had a good game. Giannis, obviously, Kuzma, decent game, but just frustrating. I think one of the games where it happened, and I feel like with an outcome like that and not having a reaction, I feel like was, I've seen this before. Nothing new. When they did that earlier in the season with the Cavs after blowing a huge lead, it sucks when you get a comeback and then you lose like that in any sport.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, these two teams do not like each other. This is a full-blown rivalry. It is so back and forth. And you especially saw it like when Indiana came to Fiserv the other night. It was
Yep.
There was heat there. There was heat. There was no love lost between these two teams. And we'll kind of get into that in a little bit, but goodness gracious, it was heated. So, but you know what? Milwaukee had to have a short memory because I believe this was back to back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, they were back to backs. Good bounce back.
Okay, so they played against the LA Lakers at home. No LeBron, which again, both of us predicted a week ago he probably wasn't going to play. Groin injuries are very tricky. They still had Luka Doncic, Evan, and
he cooked us.
Well, the good news was we still blew them out. So it was a 126-106 win over the Lakers. Luka Doncic had 45 points. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he.
Yeah, 45.
I believe he had 45 points. Luka Doncic is obviously one of those players. He's a generational talent. And, the things that he does, you're just like, you know what? You're not going to stop him, but you got to stop the other guys. And unfortunately for the Lakers, good God. I mean, there was one of them, Gabe Vincent, had like 3 wide open threes, just clanked all of them. and they just don't. And look, Austin Reeves is nice. Do not get me wrong. But, I think the biggest moment in this game, I think a couple of the big moments in this game was the let me see if I can pull up my notes here. Yep, here we go. I think it was Jericho Sims for one. Like the Lillard Sims connection was like on full force, kind of.
Yeah, he got up on that one alley-oop.
Oh yeah. Caught a couple alley-oop dunks. It was, whether it was Giannis's block or Lillard to Sims, whether it was Lopez, it was just, it was one of those things where, it would have been a better game with LeBron in there. But since LeBron was missing, it was just basically the Luka Doncic show. And unfortunately, when you only have like 2 main guys scoring, you're not winning. And that was pretty indicative in this game. Like I said, Austin Reeves played extremely well. Luka played really well, but again, when you just don't have that consistent scoring, right? Look at this: Luka 45, Reeves 28, but then your next guys don't connect with 10. It's just like, ugh, gross. But I think the biggest one player I forgot to mention who I believe it was the most points as a Buck. It was Kevin Porter Jr. with 22 points.
Yeah, 22.
Oh my God, he got rolling early coming off the bench.
Yeah, 5 of 7 of threes. His only field goal makes were all 5 threes, and then he had 7 for 7 on free throws.
And I mean, obviously, like, you mentioned, like, Lillard and Giannis and all those guys, like, TP, like, it's just not even, or excuse me, not TP, Gary Trent Jr. Like, when you get all those guys, although the one player was kind of disappointed with Kyle Kuzma, I think he's kind of coming back down to earth just a little bit. We've talked about him as a consistent third option. I don't feel like he's been playing like that the past few games. I know he's been averaging about 15 points coming over from Washington, but I just don't. He's kind of like been, what's the word I'm looking for? Slumping a little bit lately.
Yeah.
8 points. 5 points against the Lakers, 9 points against Indiana, 14 points against Cleveland, 11 points against Magic. Really, his last game was on March 5th against the Mavs, where he had 17 points and 7 of 9 shooting, but his shooting percentages have just not been very good. 2 of 9 against the Lakers. It's like, come on, dude. It's like, we're expecting you to be the third option. Like, and you're not, and you're really not pulling his weight. But again, I think that's been Kyle Kuzma's career. I think he's been consistently inconsistent sometimes, where it's like he'll have like a good game where he's like 19, but then sometimes it'll be like 7 points on like, on a shitty shoot.
Yep.
Come on,
5 this game.
Yeah, and that's the worry about Kyle Kuzma. He could very much run hot and cold. If he could provide a little something on the defensive end, that's one thing. But he is very much a hot and cold player. So that was the only disappointment. Other than that, everybody kind of chipped in, but they didn't really need Kyle Kuzma to have the best game because everybody else was chipping in, especially coming off the bench, which I think was kind of key to Milwaukee's win on Wednesday. So we'll move on to the recent game.
A good bounce back with the Pacers.
Friday
could have been better.
Now here's what made me mad. What made me mad about that particular game is the fact that, that game was also a little too close for comfort, I feel like.
Yeah, especially being up 21 at one point.
You're up 21, and all of a sudden you just like,
Yeah, horrible fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, here's my notes. Okay. Like 126 to 119, Milwaukee was able to pull it off, but still very close for comfort. Give credit to Indiana because that team always battles back, but I thought at one point they were up by 20, and all of a sudden they just almost blew it. I think some of the stuff that very interesting to watch in this game that I really kind of noticed and pinpointed was, number one, I believe Ajax, this was his first time getting in the first quarter since like February 25th. Like, and it was for one defensive stop, and then he just sat the rest of the game.
Yep. His log on ESPN doesn't even have 1 minute. It just says 0 minutes, but he played.
So
he had one foul, and they booted him.
Yeah, it was like 9 seconds, and all of a sudden it was just like,
you
got one defensive stop on Halliburton, and then it was just like, all right, see you, dude. You're not playing the rest of the game.
Thank you.
Taurean Prince's defense was 5 steals. Like that was very, very impressive. The one that I was really watching for, this was only a few plays that this happened, but this was like a good battle. The battle between Nesmith and Giannis. Now that was, I was impressed by that because those two were very much going, not throughout the whole thing, but there were a few moments where those two were very much like, Nesmith's a pest at this point in his career.
Yeah, and he dropped 30 on him.
And I think that was his career high.
Of course.
And of course it was against Milwaukee.
Everyone has a career high against us.
I know. But There was some moments that happened in that game. There was that flagrant run that Neesmith had on Giannis that,
Yep.
um, that's just a. I don't want to say it was dirty. It's a dangerous play, though. It's a dangerous play. A guy's airborne, like he grabbed his bicep. Like you just can't. You can't do that. I think the funniest moment of that game was when Thanasis got up out of his seat and it looked like he wanted to fight him. Like
Hold me
Thanasis,
back.
despite having a ruptured Achilles tendon and just being out for the whole year, looked like he wanted to fight him. That was funny. Like, no matter who you are, Thanasis, like, you do not want these problems, dude. Okay, the dunk that Giannis had on Neesmith, but then they called it a charge. I'm like,
Yes.
I was so mad. I was like, come on.
That always happens. Anthony Edwards has had so many of those where he has arguably one of the best posters in NBA history, and then just boop, offensive.
Oh my god, dude! I don't even care if he's standing there. It's just like he jumped over you. Like
There should be a rule where if it's a cool play, you just gotta let it go.
I know that took the vibes out of it. I'm like, dude, this should not be a charge. By the letter of the law, it was. Oh god. All right, I'm sorry. We're watching the Bucks are actually on right now. What's the other play that? I don't know if it was this game, but there was one where I don't know if it was this game or the Lakers game. Might have been the Lakers game where Kyle Kuzma just took like a horse shot, where he just shot on the side of the. It's like, Kyle, what are you doing? Anyways, no, but the dunk on Neesmith, that was really impressive. Actually kept T.J. McConnell at bay, which I was very happy to hear about. Thank God, because that guy always has like 22 against us.
Yeah, their bench scoring 42 points the last game and to 18 points for this game is a big difference. Yeah, it was very heavy for both teams, very heavy on their starters. Bucks bench obviously had two guys score double digits, but better than Kuzma and Lopez out there, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. But as we mentioned before, this is very much a full-blown rivalry. And like I mentioned before, despite the fact that he's from the state of Wisconsin, or he went to high school in Wisconsin, Tyrese Halliburton has turned heel, and the state of Wisconsin just does not like him. Like, if you remember that one play where, he got a steal and a dunk, he was just, egging on the fans. Just
like, all right, man.
On, like, turning a full-on heel. And honestly, small part of me respects it. Like, a small part of me is just like, wow. Like, like that. I don't know. It's just, the Pacers are that team. They don't mind, like, mixing it up a little bit. So, and you need teams like that. You need the teams that may not accomplish anything, but you need a team who are, like, you just kind of love to hate. That's what makes, people want to say they want rivalries back. Just that hatred, just that angst just for one team. That's right. That's what the Pacers are right now. Like, after they won that game on Tuesday night, I was just like, God, I hate the Pacers. I hate them. I hate them because we should beat them, but I hate them.
Yeah, that would have been a sweep, too, had they won the buzzer beater game. They had them up 2-0, lose. They went 3-1 against them this season, too.
They struggled against them last year.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Jesus, could not. I had no answer for Halliburton and any of those guys. It always feels like they got the same core guys coming back each year, which makes, always makes for a good team when you have that, stability and that consistency there, and you're not losing much in free agency. Because again, they didn't really lose anything. I mean, I think they lost James Weissman at the beginning of the season. I believe he's off the team now. Isn't he? They trade him? Oh, all right. Shit.
All right.
We're all in a collective breath right now as Giannis is down.
And then he gets back up, and then.
They call a foul.
Yeah.
Might have been a late ass foul. That's a late ass foul call. Yep. I think he just landed. What happened? He landed on his elbow.
Oh yeah, Hartenstein the possession before.
That's tough. So, let's see. Obviously, we got the Bucks Thunder coming on right now. We'll obviously do a deeper dive into that game next week. Evan, did you have anything else?
No, they got the 1, 2, 3 games for the rest of this week, all away games.
Ooh.
It's the horrible California
Oh,
streak
it's a
where
California trip?
we got a 9 o'clock against
Oh.
the Warriors, a 9:30 against the Lakers, and a 9 o'clock against the Kings.
All right.
Tuesday,
What?
Thursday, Saturday. Oh, and then
All right.
Phoenix on Monday, so another 9 o'clock. Denver on Wednesday, 8 o'clock.
Damn it. All right. How many of those are nationally? One of those are nationally televised, aren't they? Are any of them?
Monday is NBA TV, NBA TV.
No. Okay.
3 of them it looks like are Warriors,
All right, but not no like
Kings,
no
Suns.
TNT or anything like that.
Yeah, so we got 1, 2, 5 games in a row. Earliest game is 8 o'clock.
God fucking damn it. That's tough. That's tough. All right, whatever. It's the West Coast trip. You know, we're probably not staying up for that. I got,
Nope, last one of the year though.
Last one of the year. So we're just gonna have to grind through it. We're probably gonna have to rewatch some of these games because I'm not gonna be up. I'm telling you right now, I'm not gonna be up. I'm mad that this game started so damn late. I'm also mad. I think this is the second weekend in a row where we've played on back-to-back weekend days.
Yep.
So the NBA schedule makers are really fucking us here. So, all right. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks at Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.